Welcome to the Insight Scoop, Ion Ivy's last word with regard to profile building and college applications. My name is Shanza Khan, and I'm the founder and head counselor at Ion Ivy. Joining us today is an ambitious and driven youngster who showcases that it's okay to take a little bit more time to figure out your path. Ahmad Zafar, a graduate of Cadet College Hassan Abdal from his O-levels, and Roots DHA Islamabad for his A-levels, first attended the prestigious Aga Khan University in Pakistan to pursue a medical career. But after 1 year at AKU, decided to switch gears and pursue computer sciences and economics at Stanford University. Watch today's episode as we break down the process of applying to medical schools in Pakistan and also shed light on the process of changing careers. So, Ahmed, I can assure you we're going to have a lot of viewers for this session because AKU is not only one of the most prestigious medical universities in all of Pakistan, but has an established name for itself internationally. So we're going to begin with your journey over there and then talk about how you decided to switch gears. How did you prepare to apply for AKU? Did you know from your O-levels, your A-levels, at what point you decided AKU is a university I'm going to target? And how did you go about your preparation?
Sure. First of all, thank you so much, ma'am, for inviting me to this podcast. So about my journey to AKU, so I will go over the basics first. So first you have to take the MD-CAT and then you have to take the AKU's test. So for AKU, MD-CAT is a requirement to pass and you don't have to score like 90%, but you still have to pass it. And then you have to pass the AKU test. And after you pass the AKU test, I believe top 400, and there's a specific cutoff that some students are selected, and those selected students then pass on to the second stage, that is the interview stage. In the interview stage, they look at your extracurriculars as well, and they look at your personality during the interview as well. So it's a very rigorous process, and I think it's one of the most selective process for medical colleges in Pakistan.
So let's break it down a little bit further, Ahmed, for people who not quite sure about how the medical application process works. At what point during your A-levels did you have to submit your application? When did you appear for your MD-CAT? When did you have to appear for the Aga Khan test? How did you prepare for them as well?
Sure. So I'll elaborate on that. The application process is different for every year. And for me, it started out in April. AQ's application usually opens around April and May. So do look out for that. So you register on the AQ's website, you put your name, your grades of O-levels, and there's a little bit of more information that they require. And then you register for the test after paying the registration fee. So after that, you take your A-level exams, and after the exam, you start preparing for it. So how do you prepare for it? For AQ's test, it's a little bit different than for the MD-CAT, but you have to take the MD-CAT in your mind as well while preparing for AQ, because you have to not just keep AQ in your mind, but the whole medical colleges, because it's not sure that you will get into AQ, right?
Right.
So the way I did it was that I focused on my A-level concepts during my A-levels very well, and it helped a lot. And I believe that people who pass the AQ test usually focus on their concepts more than what we call ratta. So after your A-level exams, you just have to revise them. Usually AQ does not give enough time after your A-level exams to prepare for the test, as they have the test very early. But in my case, the test was a bit late due to COVID. I think it was like 2021. Yeah. So as an A-level student, I went over the FSC books. I did a few chapters from Federal, a few chapters from Punjab. In fact, I have written a whole guide, and I think I'll send you the link and you can share that in the description.
We'll post it in the podcast, and there, any of our viewers can then just click on it and access this guide. That's marvelous.
Definitely. I in fact worked for a startup called Matangle, and then I wrote the guide there. But it is a
Oh.
very extensive guide. I have mentioned the chapters that you have to read, and the books that are required. A lot of people think about the academies, that whether you should join an academy or not. And I believe that if your concepts are good and you are disciplined, then you should not join an academy. You can do all the practice yourself. But
Did you
if you
join
feel
an
that
academy,
I
Ahmed?
did, I
Okay.
did,
Okay.
but I won't recommend it
Oh, okay.
because, yeah, because I feel like I could have done better at my pace. Academies focus on usually there are a lot of academies that are focused on FSC students, and they don't cater towards A-level students. And A-level students have to have a different mindset, right? They have been focusing more on concepts, and the academies that prepare for MD-CAT focus more on the memorization part. So I believe that if you're that type of person who's disciplined and you have good concepts, you can just revise the concepts and prepare the questions at your own pace as well. So for the MD-CAT as well, you have to go through the FSC books, because MD-CAT is basically heavily focused on FSC. But for the AQ test, you have to focus more on the questions that are like given in SAT2, or questions that are more conceptual. And an interesting fact that I've seen in AQ's test is that how much you prepare in those 3 months or 2 months after your A levels, your concepts from O levels to A levels in those 5 years will be tested. You don't know what's coming in the test, even though how much you prepare. If you don't have good concepts made in your A levels, you're not going to ace a test. It will be very hard for you to do so. And yeah, that's how you basically prepare for the test in short words.
Emma, just to also clarify, you gave your MD-CAT during your last year of A levels or after you had graduated?
Yes, you give the MD-CAT after you graduate. After you take the A-level exams, then the whole process for medical admission start. Usually it's different for engineering, that NET for nurse, it's usually the test given in your A2. But for medical, it's all after your exams.
And how much time did you approximately have between giving your MD-CAT and the Aga Khan test?
So usually AQ's test is a bit earlier, then you can have time between AQ's test and MD-CAT. But for me, it was just around 2 weeks. I
Wow.
gave AQ test and then the MD-CAT in just like between 2 weeks.
So once again, then the preparation must have started really
Yeah,
early. And as you said, really need good concepts throughout from the beginning of your O levels to ace, particularly the Aga Khan test. Tell me, Ahmed, once you made it past the test and was selected for the interview, talk to our viewers a little bit about what were the kind of questions that were lobbed at you, how deeply did they penetrate your extracurriculars? What exactly did you tell them? Did you just focus on extracurriculars that were related to medicine? Did you also talk about other things?
sure. So during the interview, they focus on, I think, basically two things: if you have the confidence or not, and whether the extracurriculars you did were just for like quantity of the extracurriculars, or did you have something in mind? Did you have a goal or a passion during those when you were doing those extracurriculars? So you have to create, not create, but form a story of your whole journey through extracurriculars that you did. So I had a story because I had a goal in my mind that I wanted to do. So before the interview, I prepared for it. I self-reflect. Basically, I think to ace the interview, you don't have to memorize the answers to every question, because they can throw any question at you and then you have to tackle that. So you have to self-reflect before the interview and see that who are you? What's your journey? Why did you do the things that you did in your extracurriculars? And you have to explain that to them. They can ask any question, and sometimes the interviews really grill you. When
Tell us a
I got
couple
the
of
right.
questions that you got, Ahmed. I'm curious, and I'm sure the viewers want to know as well.
Sure. So it usually starts with introduction, and then why medicine. You have to explain that why are you choosing this profession, and why not similar professions like nursing or any other healthcare profession. They ask you, why are you coming to AKU? Why do you want to, like, why is AKU your first preference?
Yeah.
If it is. And then they ask about your extracurriculars. Why did you do this? And oh, what's your goal behind this? And then there are questions that are follow-up of those.
Okay. Okay. So for our viewers who are trying to find the secret sauce in this, there is no rote memorization. The important takeaway from Ahmed's conversation is it's about self-reflection on why you engaged in those curriculars so that you can answer them.
Exactly. It's not about the quantity of extracurricular. A lot of people say that मैं ये भी कर लेता हूँ and I'll do this and this, but it's not about that. Even if you've done one or two extracurriculars and they are very important to you and you can explain why you did them, then you can get in easily.
How important were the essays and the application itself in the AKU process?
So AQ does not have essays like that. It's just a form that they give you and you have to fill out your extracurriculars. And then if you have taken a gap year, there's a portion of why did you take a gap year for that. But no such essay like that, like in the Common App application. It's only the interview where they ask about your like life and your goals and what you're going to do 5 years, 10 years, like typical interview questions. But the main three questions are introduce yourself, why medicine, and why AKU. And to answer the why AKU part, you have to know AKU really well and how it can relate to you, like how AKU can help you as a person, as a doctor in the future. They say that like they check how interested are you in AKU. Are you just there for the glamour, the name, or have you really got into the website of AKU and researched?
Very much like the American Why Us essay. So you would be talking about particular faculty, particular courses, particular research opportunities, so that they know you've done your homework. Out of curiosity, Ahmed, why do you think that it is manageable to do this at the beginning of your A-level process? Do you have to wait till you graduate? Or do you think that those ambitious students can take it while they're doing their A-levels, take the examinations and so on?
No, definitely the process starts way back, like when you are done with your O level. So I think even in your O level, you should, if you have AKU in your mind, you should start working on it. Like you should try to have extracurriculars that you are interested in, and you want to make that whole story and not just like, do all of the things at the end and then try to justify it that you actually not did it for your application, but you have to do it because you were interested in it.
I'm actually asking, do you think that it's possible for ambitious students to give the MDCAT and AKU test in their A1 instead of waiting to complete their A2?
No, that's not possible because it's a requirement that you pass the whole A levels and FSC exams.
So there's no shortcuts in this.
No, there's no need to take a shortcut because you can't get into a medical college before that. After you take the A-level exam, then you take the MDCAT, and then you just go into a medical college.
And even I don't know this, Emma, so it would be a revelation for me. I'm assuming that you did apply to other medical universities apart from AKU. How did that process go? And do you think that being an A-level student instead of an FSC student, did that have an impact on you? Did it hurt you in terms of your equivalency? Do you have any regrets about that? Let's talk a little bit about those things.
I think it definitely did hurt because in A levels you can have the maximum grade at A star, right? You can go above that, and the equivalence of A star is 90%. I think it was increased to 92%, but like not more than that. And FSC students can easily get up to 100%. So it definitely creates a lot of gap when you are like getting your equivalence. And even in the MDCAT, FSC students have like read those books for 2 years, and then you as an A-level student, you have to go through those books in like a month or two. So it's definitely harder for A-level students to keep up with that. But there are some students who get into public medical colleges like RMC or King Edward as well. But those students are like who have gotten straight A stars in O levels and A levels, and they get 95% in MDCAT, and then their equivalence matches.
So what would be your recommendation if you have a student who wants to go, obviously everyone aspires to AKU, but it is so hard to get in. Clearly, that is a goal for everyone. But for the rest of the medical schools in Pakistan, most of the highly ranked ones are public universities like King
Yeah,
Edward, King
definitely.
Jinnah. And so, what would be your advice? You've gone through this process. If a junior comes up to you and says, "Hey, Ahmed, I'm thinking of going to medical school." He's done his O levels. Would you tell him, "Hey, kid, you should go towards the FSC or go towards your A levels"? What would be your advice and why?
Sure. So it's a very tough question because it depends a lot on the person. If your sole goal is to get into a medical college and you're not looking at anything else, and you have the actual passion of doing medicine, and affordability is also an issue for you. Affordability is very important here because in Pakistan, a lot of private medical colleges are very expensive. And if your goal is to get into a good medical college that is affordable, that is public, then I think FSC would be a better option for you in Pakistan because like the equivalent structure, like it is structured, you'll have better chances at getting into good public medical college with the same amount of effort that you do in like A levels, and if you do that in FSC, you might be able to get into a good public medical college that way. But if your aim is AKU, and for example, if your aim is AKU as well, and but your top priority is still public medical colleges, you can still do a lot of those things like prepare your extracurricular profile, have a like prepare a good interview. Basically, you can also do that in FSC as well, because in AKU a lot of my friends were people who had done FSC. So AKU does not look at students based on A levels or FSC. You can have a equally good profile of an A-level student as an FST student as well.
Okay, interesting. And I'm sure, at some point we might want to do a live session because I'm sure questions would be streaming in. Emmett, if I was to ask you, what are the top, and I know you've done your research, what are the top medical schools in Pakistan? Could you just run us through 8 or 10 names of the top medical schools that all the students are vying for?
Sure. I don't have all of the names, but if you look at the number of the doctors who go to the US, then definitely AKU and King Edward are on the top. King Edward has more alumni because they have been around for like, I don't know how, 56 or more than like 100 years. But AQ has been here since 1980, and like percentage of AQ grads in the US will probably be more. And because it's a very smooth pathway for AQ grads, the whole culture at AQ is about doing the steps and like taking a residency and like getting a match there. And also people at AQ or the AQ admission process is selective in a way that it looks for people who are interested in other stuff as well, like extracurriculars. So when you get to med school, it's not just about your studies, it's about the research work that you do, your leadership positions. And when you apply for a match, they take all of that into account. So that is why AQ grads do well in the match process. And definitely there's another part that AQ students usually are privileged enough to afford the whole process as well.
Yeah, it's a very expensive, expensive process, which, just something to kind of dig deeper on. When you applied to public medical universities in Pakistan, did you get in anywhere through that?
I did not quite follow up on that, but because my equivalence did not quite match up to the 90%, because at that time a lot of FSC grads were getting 100%.
Okay.
So my equivalence did not quite match up to the threshold.
Yeah, it goes back again to what exactly your priorities are, and whether you're completely gung-ho set on medicine or you're still thinking about other things, which kind of leads us to the second half of this conversation. What happened while you were at AKU to make you decide to leave it? Where did this whole idea of let's apply to American universities come up from? At what point did it come up? And talk to us a little bit about that process.
Sure. I believe that Pakistan ka jo education system hai, that is very flawed in a way that there is no career counseling at any stage. And the reason people choose certain careers is due to like influence from their parents or the stereotypes of cultures around them. And also a lot of people now these days tell them to choose a career according to their interest. But I believe कि एक metric O level या A level का बच्चा cannot know possibly कि उसका interest किस field में हो सकता है. So when I went to AKU, I realized that कि मेरा interest तो नहीं था. I just chose a career because like एक तो parents were saying that, and I had no other option in mind, and AKU seemed the best option in the country. So that is why I went through this process. So when I went there, I realized that it's not based on interest, but it should be based on aptitude. Aptitude में ये आता है कि आपकी personality क्या है? What kind of career will suit you the best according to your personality and strengths? एक बच्चा अगर creative है तो वो हो सकता है किसी creative career की तरफ जाए. And then there can be a person who's logical, that they can go into a software career, software engineering. In medicine, it's more about being analytical and having a good memory. And there, for me, I needed more innovation and creativity. And there was very little room for innovation and creativity in medicine. I did not wake up and see myself as a doctor in the future. Even though I was at one of the best medical colleges in South Asia, but I still wasn't satisfied because I know that I won't be happy when I won't have any room for innovation or creativity. So that is the reason I considered reapplying. And then I talked to you as well, and you said AQ is only worth leaving if you go to Stanford or Harvard. So that is why I applied to just two colleges, Stanford and UPenn, because they were
Wow,
kind of aligned.
Emma, that is called, just for our viewers to know, Stanford and Harvard, we are talking less than 5% acceptance rate. So this is a big leap of faith that Emma decided, I'm going to give it a shot. So sorry, please continue, Emma, just for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. Your words definitely made an impact on me. I thought, अगर AQ छोड़ना है, तो let's apply somewhere better and worth leaving AKU. So that is the reason I applied to Stanford and UPenn. And then Alhamdulillah, I went through the whole process myself basically because ek to us waqt, I was very doubtful that whether I should apply or not, and I missed the earlier application deadline as well. तो फिर मैंने सारा process end पे किया, like it was during my medical prof as well, the final exams. मैंने कहा नहीं apply कर देता हूँ, बस देखा जाएगा क्या होएगा. And then
Okay, I'm going to pause here. Viewers and students, we do not recommend this.
Yes,
Please
definitely.
realize that Ahmed is brilliant and is an exception to the rule. Please always apply early cycle. Please always put in a lot of work. Continue, Ahmed. Sorry, I had to make that interjection.
Definitely, that's I consider myself lucky to be accepted at that time because regular mein there's a lot of competition. As you said as well, that you said that apply in the earlier, but I had a lot of doubts and I procrastinated. I would say, but yeah, Alhamdulillah, I got in and I got this like announcement in April. And then, even then, I was not really sure whether I should go or not. Because a lot of people around me who are like my mother's and father's age, they were saying, nahi, AQ mein raho, be a doctor, iska zyada fayda hoga. Lekin people in Pakistan don't know about Stanford. Unko bas Harvard ka pata hota hai, but still, I was still confused internally because I wasn't sure कि मैं इतना financially secure career छोड़ के I will be going off somewhere else. But yeah, I researched about it and then I found that is also very financially secure. Like if you graduate from Stanford, it will be very likely that you have a good financial career.
Absolutely.
So yeah, definitely.
So, you're an exceptional case, Ahmed, which is why we have invited you as a guest today. Talk to your audience a little bit about, I think a key program that assisted you in this entire process and played a role in your decision to go towards Stanford was the RISE program.
Yeah.
And, you know, as an international student, finances is the key factor that often prevents even academically excellent international students from getting into top universities because they are asking for full demonstrated need. And that puts them in this really, really competitive space where, you know, it's one in a really thousands of shot to get selected. So at what point, when you were once again considering universities, did the RISE program come into play? Please tell our audience a little bit about the RISE program. How did you hear about it? And how did that play a role in this entire process?
Sure. I would say that my family might not have been able to afford AQU if it wasn't for RISE, because AQU is also considered very expensive in the country, and like Stanford, you cannot even imagine in being in Pakistan. So RISE is basically, I would say, a program, an opportunity for teenagers who are solving problems in their communities and need a support, need a mentorship program for throughout life that can help them achieve what they want to do. And it selects 15 to 17-year-old teens every year, and the process is very extensive and rigorous. So it starts by it's not a like typical college application process. It's different than that. It focuses on your personality, not your grades. It focuses on what problems that you can solve and what are you trying to do right now. So it starts with like different stages. The first stage is about it gives you prompts to make videos on, like what are your goals in life, what are your passions, and then it gives you a month to do a project in which you solve a problem in your community. And after that, top 500 applicants are shortlisted. And before that, an IQ quiz is also in the process. But yeah, taking that into account, 500 finalists are shortlisted. And then there's a whole interview process. There's a group debate process in this. They check your leadership skills. And there are a lot of similar other processes that are whole packed into one finalist day. And then after that, the top 100 winners are shortlisted.
It's a rigorous process. Emma, tell me that I hope that you have made some YouTube videos leaving behind these guidelines. No, for you know, you
I
should
plan to,
consider
but I haven't tried it.
it.
Yeah.
Because you know that's a separate topic in and of itself on how do you approach such competitive programs like the RISE program, like the Yale Young Global Scholars programs. You know, there are such valuable opportunities, but it's you have to go about it in a strategic way. You have to know what you're doing. It's not simply your grades, which is what most students think.
Exactly. I would say that it's one of the most hard work that I've ever done in my life when I applied to this program, because uh, it seemed like too good to be true, but then I researched about it that it was actually like a official program. So I very strategically applied. I looked at their website, what they want, what kind of applicants that they're going to select. I shortlisted all of their attributes, and I then self-reflected on my journey, where this attribute fits in my story. And then I formulated those stories, and I practiced in front of the camera multiple times, and then I made the videos. And I made the videos in such a good way. Like I hired my friend who had a professional camera, and then I edited subtitles on it. I edited multiple clips of me going to different projects, like doing different stuff. And then I made a whole like 2-3 minute documentaries. They had multiple videos, and I put a lot of effort in that. So
Wow.
that's how I
That's
did it.
that's the takeaway. I do hope you consider uploading those videos and that process on YouTube as an example for others who look into this. And one of the key concerns that parents raise when even we encourage students to look into such programs, they're like, hey, how will our child manage? Because as you said, it is so time intensive. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort. The result is uncertain. Shouldn't he be better off spend his time studying biology and physics and chemistry? Why are you recommending this? So what's your takeaway on that?
My parents also did the same. In fact, during that time, COVID was on the peak, and in fact, my father also got hospitalized. And even then, I wanted to, like, I could have left the whole application process in between, but I did not. It was hard, but yeah, I had to like persevere because if you have to achieve something, you have to have the burning desire in you, and you have to work your like whole night. I remember that the last night my work even was not finished, and 1 hour before the deadline I finished the whole work. And yes, I did compromise on my studies during that time, and but I had to look at the pros and cons. The trade-off was, yeah, I could at that time, आप physics का exam October November में भी दे सकते थे. So I thought, if I don't prepare for physics right now, I can prepare for this program and I can give the physics exams in September. So I prepared for 2 subjects, chemistry and biology. I got good grades in them, and then I did not prepare for physics because I did this program. And later in September, I gave the physics exam. I got a good grade in that as well. So I planned all.
That's how time intensive it is.
Yeah.
Himmat, because we are close to wrapping up, what I think this is very important coming from you. What advice would you give to students who are currently in their FSC and A levels, who are being told by their parents to pursue a career in medicine like every other parent in Pakistan does? What would you tell them? What would be your advice to them?
I think self-reflection should be a priority for them, alongside the working on their grades and studies, definitely, because self-reflection will not only tell them which career pathway should be good for them, but also about their values, about their personality would improve, they would personally grow a lot. And आगे जाके in college and professional career, it's not just about your grades, but it's also about your personality and soft skills. So during that self-reflection process, you'll be able to get closer to that. You'll identify your values, you'll identify your weaknesses and where you want to work on. So I think they should get into the process as early as they can, even at the start of your O levels. And that would also help you define your career as well.
Thank you so much for this, Ahmed, for taking up the time. I know that you are extremely busy packing up your bags to head to the West Coast. We from Ion Ivy wish you the very best of luck in the next step of your journey. And I have no doubts that you will inshallah shine there as you have done so here. So thank you so much. We are most grateful that you took out the time to be with us today.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for inviting me.